Welcome, welcome, welcome to my living room. My name is Lana Labonte, and if you've never been to my page or my channel before, this is where I come to share, to support, uplift, inspire, and empower you to be the best you're here to be. And whatever I do is from my personal experience, hoping to inspire you to do the same in your life. So, we're continuing on with the Untethered Soul. We are on chapter 13, Far, Far Beyond. I hope you're enjoying these readings because each chapter has golden nuggets of wisdom, and then I'm sharing mine amongst it. Ultimately, the word beyond captures the true meaning of spirituality. In its most basic sense, going beyond means going past where you are. It means not staying in your current state. When you constantly go beyond yourself, there are no more limitations. There are no more boundaries. Limitations and boundaries exist at the places where you stop going beyond. If you never stop, then you go beyond boundaries, beyond limitations, beyond the sense of a restricted self. Beyond is infinite in all directions. If you take a laser beam and aim it in any direction, it will go on for infinity. It will only cease to be infinite if you created an artificial boundary that it could not penetrate. Boundaries create the appearance of finiteness in an infinite space. Things seem finite because your perception hits mental boundaries. In truth, everything is infinite. It is you who takes that which goes on forever and talks about a mile from here. What is a mile from here? It's nothing but a piece of infinity. There are no limits. There is just the infinite universe. Notice how you do that? Everything seems limited because you created the limitation. Everything is infinite. It's you that makes it small. It's your mind. That's not who you are. And when you sit in the seat of consciousness, you recognize there is so much more than goes on within the limited mind. Notice the mind inside the head appears limited, but even it's infinite, unlimited. To go beyond, you must keep going past the limits that you put on things. This requires changes at the core of your being. Right now, you are using your analytical mind to break the world up into individual thought objects. You are then using the same mind to put these discrete thoughts together in a defined relationship to each other. You do this in an attempt to feel a semblance of control. Whew, isn't that one humbling? This is seen most clearly in your constant attempt to make the unknown known. You say to yourself, "It wouldn't dare rain tomorrow. It's my day off. And since Jennifer loves being outdoors, she will certainly want to go hiking with me. In fact, if I want an extra day off, Tom won't mind covering for me. After all, I covered for him once." You have it all figured out. You know how everything is supposed to be, even the future. Your views, your opinions, your preferences, your concepts, your goals, and your beliefs are all ways of bringing the infinite universe down to finite, where you can feel a sense of control. Since the analytical mind cannot handle the infinite, you created an alternate reality of finite thoughts that can remain fixed within your mind. You have taken the whole, broken it into pieces, and selected a handful of these pieces to put together in a certain way within your mind. This mental model has become your reality. You must now struggle day and night to make the world fit your model, and you label everything that doesn't fit as wrong, bad, or unfair. It's all your BS, your belief systems, people. We create from that space. If anything happens that challenges how you view things, you fight, you defend, you rationalize, you get frustrated and angry over simple little things. This is a result of being unable to fit what's actually happening into your model of reality. If you want to go beyond your model, you have to take the risk of not believing in it. If your mental model is bothering you, it's because it doesn't incorporate reality. Your choice is to either resist reality or go beyond the limits of your model. In order to truly go beyond your model, you must first understand why you built it. The easiest way to understand this is to study what happens when the model doesn't work. Have you ever built your whole world on a model of life predicated upon another person's behavior or the permanence of a relationship? If so, have you ever had that foundation pulled out from underneath you? Somebody leaves you, somebody dies, something goes wrong, something shakes your model to the core. When this happens, your entire view of who you believe you are, including your relationship to everyone and everything around you, begins to fall apart. You panic and you do everything you can to hold it together. You beg, fight, and struggle to try to keep your world from collapsing. Anyone? I know I have. Once you've had an experience like that, and most people have, you realize that the model you've built is tenuous at best. The entire thing can fall apart. The whole model and all that it's built upon, including your entire view of yourself and everything else, can start to crumble. What you experience when this happens is one of the most important learning experiences of your life. You come face to face with what made you build the model. The level of discomfort and disorientation you experience is frightening. You struggle just to get back some semblance of normal perception. What you're really doing is trying to pull the mental model back around you so you can settle down into your familiar mental setting. But our whole world doesn't have to fall apart in order for us to see what we're doing in there. We are constantly trying to hold it all together. If you really want to see why you do things, then don't do them and see what happens. Let's say you're a smoker. If you decide to stop smoking, you quickly confront the urges that cause you to smoke. These urges are the reason you smoke. They are the outermost layer of cause. If you can sit through these urges, you will see what caused them. If you can get comfortable with what you see, you will face the next layer of causation. And so on, layer upon layer. Likewise, there's a reason you overeat. There's a reason why you dress the way you do. There's a reason for everything you do. If you want to see why you care so much about what you wear and what your hair is like, then just don't do it one day. Wake up in the morning and go somewhere disheveled with your hair a mess, and see what happens to the energies inside of you. See what happens to you when you don't do the things that make you comfortable. What you'll see is why you're doing them. You are constantly trying to stay within your comfort zone. You struggle to keep people, places, and things in a manner that supports your model. If they start to go any other way, you get uncomfortable. Your mind then becomes active, telling you how to get things back the way you need them to be. The moment somebody starts behaving in a way that is outside your expectations, your mind starts talking. It says, what should I do about this? I can't just ignore what he did. I could confront him directly or ask someone else to talk to him. Your mind is telling you to fix it. And it really doesn't matter what you end up doing. It's all about getting back within your comfort zone. This zone is finite. All attempts to stay within it keep you finite. Going beyond always means letting go of the efforts to keep things within your defined limits. finite, limited, infinite, unlimited. Always remember that. We are infinite, but we limit ourselves. So there are two ways you can live. You can devote your life to staying in your comfort zone, or you can work on your freedom. In other words, you can devote your whole life to the process of making sure everything fits within your limited model, or you can devote your life to freeing yourself from the limits of your model. To understand this better, let's take a trip to the zoo. Imagine that you're having a great time until you see a tiger inside a small cage. This causes you to contemplate what it would be like to live the rest of your life in such a tight confinement. The very thought is extremely frightening to you, but in truth, the confines of your comfort zone create just such a cage. The inner cage doesn't limit your body, it limits the expanse of your consciousness. Because you are unable to go outside your comfort zone, you are, in essence, locked in confinement. If you examine this, you will see that you're willing to stay in this cage because you're afraid. Your comfort zone is familiar. Beyond it is the unknown. To fully appreciate this, just imagine the most paranoid person you have ever met in your life. He's so scared. Every moment of his life, he thinks somebody's trying to hurt him. If you offer him that tiger's cage, he might accept your offer. He doesn't see it as being locked in a cage. He sees it as protection from what could harm him. That which looks like a prison to you looks like safety to him. What if a security service came to your house and bolted down all the doors and barred all the windows? If you happen to be inside at the time, would you panic and want to get out? Or would you thank them for helping you feel safe? Most people have the second reaction when it comes to the limitations of their psyche. They want to stay in there and feel safe. They don't say, "Get me out of here. I'm locked in this tiny world in which everything has to be a certain way. I have to worry about what everybody's doing, what I look like, and everything I've ever said. I want out." Instead of wanting out, they try to keep their cage stable. If something is not comfortable, they do whatever they must to protect themselves and get back to a feeling of safety. If you've ever done that, it means you love your cage. When the cage of the psyche got rattled, you fixed it so that you could be comfortable inside. When you truly awake spiritually, you realize you are caged. You wake up and realize that you can hardly move in there. You're constantly hitting the limitations of your comfort zone. You see that you're afraid to tell people what you really think. You see that you're too self-conscious to freely express yourself. You see that you have to stay on top of everything in order to be okay. Why? There really is no reason. You have set these limits on yourself. If you don't stay within them, you get scared and you feel hurt and you feel threatened. That's your cage. The tiger knows the limits of his cage when he hits the bars. You know the limits of your cage when your psyche starts to resist. Your bars are the outer boundary of your comfort zone. The minute you come to the edge of your cage, it lets you know it in no uncertain terms. Let's look at this edge by way of an example. In the old days, if you wanted to keep your dog in the backyard, you had to put up a fence. Nowadays, you don't need a fence because everything is electronic. You just bury wires under the ground and put a little collar on the dog. The dog thinks, "Hey, I'm free. I used to have to be inside a fence. This is great." Of course, he goes running right to where he's not supposed to go and zap. He jumps back and barks. What happened? An invisible limit was there, and when the dog approached the limit, it gave him a little shock. It hurt. It was uncomfortable enough so that now the dog feels fear whenever he approaches the boundaries. So you see, a cage doesn't have to look like a cage. It can be a cage created by your fear of discomfort. If you approach your limits, you begin to feel uncomfortable and insecure. Those are the bars of your cage. As long as you stay inside of it, you cannot possibly know what is on the other side. The boundaries of this cage are what make your world appear finite and temporal. The infinite and eternal are just outside the limits of your cage. Going beyond means going beyond the borders of your cage. There should be no cage. The soul is infinite. It is free to expand everywhere. It is free to experience all of life. This can only happen when you are willing to go beyond, to face reality without mental boundaries. If you still have barriers and you know what they are because you hit them every day, you must be willing to go beyond them. Otherwise, you remain within your cage. And remember, decorating your cage with beautiful experiences, fond memories, and great dreams is not the same as going beyond. A cage by any other name is still a cage. You must be willing to go beyond. Throughout each day, you frequently hit the edges of your cage. When you hit these edges, you either pull back or try to force things to change so that you can remain comfortable. You actually use the brilliance of your mind to stay inside your cage. Day and night, you plot and plan how to stay within your comfort zone. Sometimes you can't even fall asleep at night because you're too busy thinking about what you need to do to stay within your cage. How can I make it so that she will never leave me? How can I keep her from ever becoming interested in someone else? You're trying to figure out how to be sure that you won't hit the edges of your cage. Trying to control everything and anything around you to keep you in your comfort zone. Let's go back to the dog. Since that particular dog was used to roaming free, it's a sad day when he stops trying to get out of the yard. The only reason he would stop trying to go beyond his little space is that he's afraid of the edges. But what if we're dealing with a very brave dog that's determined to be free? Imagine that the dog has not given up. You find him sitting there right at the place where the collar starts vibrating, and he is not backing off. Every minute he's stepping forward a little bit more in order to get used to the force field. If he continues, he will eventually get out. There's not a chance in the world that he won't. Since it's just an artificial edge, he can get through it if he can learn to withstand the discomfort. Ooh. He just has to be ready, willing, and able to handle the discomfort, just like you. The collar cannot actually hurt him, it's just uncomfortable. If he is willing to go beyond his comfort zone, he is free to come and go at will. Your cage is just like this. When you approach the edges, you feel insecurity, jealousy, fear, or self-consciousness. Spirituality begins when you decide that you'll never stop trying. Spirituality is the commitment to go beyond. No matter what it takes, it's an infinite journey based on going beyond yourself every minute of every day for the rest of your life. If you're truly going beyond, you're always at your limits. You're never back in the comfort zone. A spiritual being feels as though they are always against that edge, and they are constantly being pushed through it. Eventually, you will realize that it cannot actually hurt you to go beyond your psychological limits. If you are willing to just stand at the edge and keep walking, you will go beyond. You used to pull back when it got comfortable. Now you relax and go past that point. That is all it takes to go beyond. Go beyond where you were a minute ago by handling what's happening now. Would you like to go beyond? Would you like to feel no edges? Imagine a comfort zone that is so expanded that it can easily fit the entire day, no matter what happens. The day unfolds and the mind doesn't say anything. You simply interact with the day with a peaceful, fully inspired heart. If your edges happen to get hit, the mind doesn't complain. It all just passes through. This is how great beings live. When you are trained like a great athlete to immediately relax through your edges when they get hit, then it's all over. You realize that you are always infinite. You realize that you will always be fine. Nothing can ever bother you except your edges, and now you know what to do with them. You end up loving your edges because they point your way to freedom. All you have to do is constantly relax and lean into them. Then one day, when you least expect it, you fall through into the infinite. That is what it means to go beyond. How beautiful. Far, far beyond. To infinity and beyond. Yeah, there's messages everywhere. You can find golden nuggets in every moment if you are open to the possibilities. If you expand your mind rather than stay limited within the confines of your BS, your belief systems. So essentially going beyond means challenging those, challenging your past, challenging your experiences, your beliefs, your constructed stories, your habits, your routines, changing it up, because change is necessary, challenges us, and we need to be challenged in life. If we're not being challenged, we're not growing. That's a true story. If you're hanging out in your comfort zone, chances are you're also being held back from some growth. Don't get me wrong, we need to rest, we need to replenish, we need to also process and integrate when we have gone through experiences, when we have grown, when major change is happening, when the life, death, rebirth process is occurring. Because we have to go through the cycles of grief that recognize how something that is ending has served us in our life, to celebrate it, to mourn it, but to also appreciate that it existed. Whether it was a good or bad thing doesn't really matter. It served you, because everything in life serves us as lessons and blessings to growing and flowing, and the movement is meant to be momentum, not stuck and stagnant. Going far, far beyond means not just sitting around and waiting for something to happen. It means not expecting the externals to be a certain way or meet certain conditions before you're ready. Sometimes we have to do things just because we know we need to do them. And yeah, we're going to vacillate. We're going to be like playing a little dance. I don't know. Yeah, ooh, ah, ooh, ah. We exercise the courage muscle every time we face the fear and do it anyway. You know, courage is a muscle. For it to get stronger, you got to exercise it. Practice makes progress, not progress to perfection. I'm a recovering perfectionist, so I can speak from these terms. We have to practice, meaning we have to repeat things for them to become habit and new routines. When we are challenging our old habits and routines and our own beliefs, we have to actually put into play new ones and try new things and then create new habits as a result. And we are our own guinea pigs, so hey, why not just try it? What's the worst that's going to happen? You know, try everything at least 3 times to know whether or not it really was something you liked or didn't like. And then if you really like it, you can add it into your routines. You can add it as one of your new habits. And as I say that, it's kind of comical because that's what I was sitting with recently. I was like, oh my gosh, you know, there are these things I want to do. I'm in the middle of a renovation. I can't do anything until that building's ready. Or can I? Challenge it. I'm sitting here challenging that for myself. What can I do until that building is ready? Can I still proceed without an expectation of my externals meeting those perfect conditions, my comfort zone, or can I find another way? That's part of the challenging our minds, that we need to play that game of, okay, I'm limited here. Is there another way to go about it? Can I find another direction? Can I course correct? You know, when there's a fork in the road, doesn't always mean there's two ways to go. Maybe you can go up, maybe you can go down. Get creative. That's what this life is about. Think outside the box. That's your comfort zone. Those are your finite edges. Think outside of those. What will it take for you to get closer to your dreams, what it is you're here to do? It's not going to be sitting around waiting. Sometimes if you sit around too long, you get forced out of your seat of waiting. And then it feels like things are being done to you, when in reality, you weren't taking the initiative and you weren't making the steps to get there. So we have to be willing to be the ones who make the choices for our own lives, or we're placing them in someone else's hands. Whew! Some tough things can happen out of that. I'm just saying, I've had experiences already in my life where when I didn't make the choice, I had the choices made for me, and it didn't feel so good. It felt very icky. It was a blow to my own ego. Having things happen to me made me feel like the victim, which only disempowered me and put the power in the hands of the other. The only way we progress is with practice. When we progress, step by step, moment by moment, the best thing you can do is come into this present moment. Breathe into the now. Taking a deep breath makes you mindful of your mind. Get conscious and aware of what is going up and on in there. Once you make the choice to change, the universe conspires to support you. Trust that. The moment you solidly put your foot on the ground and say, okay, I'm done, I'm doing this, you'd be surprised how quickly the energies meet up with you. I know so many times in my life, I have literally put a solid foot on the ground and said, okay, this stuff stops right here, right now. I am changing this. And it was like a lightning bolt. Things started rolling and happening. Because when we get so fed up with our own crap, that's usually what it takes for us to change. But why do you have to get to that point? You already know it's coming. Right there back in the background. You sense it, you feel it. Now just trust it and go back into your heart. And anytime your head starts going on its little monkey train, the monkey starts, take a deep breath. Say, thank you. I'm going to tap into my heart. Because here is where you'll find the true direction you're meant to go. Tap into your heart. Because to me, that's where my inner child resides. And I always go there because I'm like, okay, inner child, you got some wisdom. I trust you. You are guiding me because I know you were the purest to source when we started this life. I guarantee you still remember some things I've forgotten, as well as my inner wise woman. And I look along the course of my life at periods of wisdom within myself, and I tap into that. When were there times when I had to do something that I was afraid of? And when I did it, it wasn't so bad. When did I go within and trust everything would be okay? And it always worked out in my favor. I go back to those times. I feel into what that felt like. Because there's nothing more rewarding than the trust of yourself and following your heart and soul's desire. The heart will never lead you astray. It's the head that gets in the way. Trust that. Be willing to go beyond. far, far beyond. You are infinite. Trust in that. And see what happens. So, the Untethered Soul. Tune in for the next chapter. And if this served you, let me know in the comments what stood out the most. And sharing is caring, so you never know. You know somebody who needs a little refresher or has never read the book, send them my playlist, because this is an opportunity to have someone read to you, and maybe that sparks some inner wisdom within you, because that's what we all do. We're here to help each other remember, to bring out the best in one another, and to bring out what you think is the worst is actually not a bad thing. Because sometimes we gotta be shaken up to be woken up. All right? Click the notification bell, subscribe, because that's kind, and let's see what happens. Share your magic. Share what shows up in your life with me. I'd love to know. I love you from the bottom of my heart. So much love.